Computer. Lights.
Good morning, everyone, and happy Thursday. So I'm having like issues with my camera now. All of a sudden, it's weird. I noticed it this morning. It was plugged in. It was on. Nothing's changed since yesterday, but for some reason, OBS couldn't see it. So we had to go through the entire process of finding the cable as it goes down under the table, and then find where it's plugged into the computer. Not you. Thank you. And then unplug it and plug it back in. And then after that, I had to go into OBS and then tell it to deactivate and activate. And then it worked. And it's all working again. But I think I might have one too many cameras plugged in. So I think is going on here. Or probably the experiment that's going on with this camera might be confusing it, which is okay. We'll get there. I'm not worried. It took some extra time. That's all. So, there we go. So, okay, today we're going to do a few things. One is I was totally called out on online for not giving my uniforms pockets. So we're going to work on pockets today because they're not wrong. And so we're going to do some pockets work and discuss the idea of putting pockets in because that's probably a priority. We have a couple of pieces that are already sort of in work. Where am I going? Does anybody know? What are we doing here? Boodly doo 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 ba doo doo doodly doo ba doo be doo be doo. There we go. Good morning, Brent. There we go. Are you hearing music, Brent? Is the music playing? Because I'm not 100% sure. Right? What are we doing here? Does anybody know? Right. I actually am about as clear on purpose as I can get. I know what I'm supposed to be doing in life, or at least 99% sure I know what I'm doing in life. Because, boy, I've got to write all this stuff. Oh, hey, I got to show you all the things, though, that we came up with after the show was over yesterday. And I think it's funny because by we, I mean like me. But that's all right. It was funny. And so let's bring up the Shakrana character, right? So we've decided that we don't know what the planet's like, but the little Shakrana guys live on a moon-like world, right? We know that. Okay, that's cool. And they currently live anywhere in the Unity. They're Unity people. They migrated across their moon. We built little shelters. They absorb radiation as a respiration effect. So here's on that shell on the back there. Which, by the way, there will be some racy stuff here in just a minute. So if you are, adverse to racy things, you might want to avoid your eyes. They eat regolith, which specifically, like Brent had said, was HE3 rich regolith. I'll have to go back and fix that. I fixed this guy. I don't know what it's called now because I'm gonna have to go down a couple of pages. We'll find it in a couple of pages. That's right. But there's him eating regolith. So, and then they find it using a gas chromatograph sensors that are on their nose, which are these two little things in the horns and all points here. And we had a biology thing going on here, right? And they were cold-blooded by appearance, but not really particularly. I mean, really, they've got an exoskeleton. This is about how big they are to a person, right? They move by using their claws. You can see sort of how their foot pattern is 1, 2, and 3. They have the little reproductive ducts inside there that just kind of are. They can move things and look at things in the environment. I went on ahead and started talking about like their tribal paintings. They paint themselves. Their natural color is sort of a rust color with some gray on it. So that was sort of that. And then them in a Unity uniform looks like this. That's what they look like in a Unity uniform. So they grow. They live about 170 Earth years. This is what they look like as a grub. They're little cute things about yay big, about the size of a small pizza. And then as they grow older, all of the things start growing longer and longer. They look meaner, but the truth is they're calcifying in a lot of ways. So they look a whole lot meaner, all these spikes and things growing out of them, but the spikes are actually painful and it makes it hard for them to move. And ultimately their carapace starts to crack and then it shatters. So reproduction, they get together in threes and the reproduction ducts connect through using the little reproductive coil that's coiled up inside their shell. And they have a triple lined DNA called an HNA or a hexagraphic nucleic acid because it runs on 6 different sets of sugars. And the cells are always Ys. So they're never X's. There's no chromosomes that are X's ever. Then when they have offspring, they eject them out the little birth canal thing. That's the same thing as the reproductive canal. And then they just cuddle them and stuff like that. And then I came up with this idea that they have 3 different parents, a day, a night, and a feed. The day is sort of the one that plays with them all the time. The night's the one that sleeps with them at night. And then the feed, of course, feeds them. And so they choose who's which whenever they conceive. And here's, of course, an adolescent playing with a day right here. And there's another adolescent on the day's back. So they're playing ball. And then each sense organ, they can see using photophores on their carapace. They can't hear at all. So because they live in vacuum. So what they have is they have a backpack that they wear when they're with the Unity that takes sound and translates it to codes on their back. And they smell using the gas chromatograph sort of things on their noses, so to speak. But it makes them really sensitive. They're very, very sensitive, especially in high pressure environments because there's a lot of pressure. So there's a lot of air and stuff like that. So they can smell things like pheromones and things like that. And they make good ship's counselors because they can tell exactly how you're feeling for you and for humans and for the Najor. So they smell using these Ursidae clefts. And there's their touch. And then I haven't finished these last 2 pages. So anyway, there you go. So we've finished up the Najor, kind of ran them all the way out. I shortened the pages down so there weren't so many pages and then made them for all the other creatures. And we'll work on the Jacine later, maybe today. But first, we need to come up with pocketses. So that there's pocketses. Because it needs pocketses. So, I think the most likely obvious place is a hip or upper thigh pocket on either side. I think also arm pockets are probably the best bet. I think pants always had pockets up here on the waist because that was the best possible place to make it when you had to make pants. But it's not the most efficient or best way to put things on your body. So I'm going to, this is the upper level. We're going to go to this level here. And we're going to talk a little bit about pocketses. Because I think a pocket here would be useful. And one right here as well. Right? So we can actually kind of raise this up like that. And raise this up just a little bit like that. Well, yeah, but they weren't wrong. Shinji and my wife were not exactly wrong on this. It would be one thing if they were wrong, but they're not. They're not wrong at all. There should be pockets on here. However, we're not going to redraw the entire thing. We're just going to add pockets. There we go. I'll go up onto the opacity layer. Make sure that that's got sort of a brightness going for it there. There we go. Okay, so we've got upper sleeve pockets. And we'll put some down here. And I don't think, I mean, when you're talking about a world that has effectively replicators, really don't think we have to work too hard on spaces to store stuff. Right? I mean, I don't. Right? I don't feel like our biggest threat is storage for anybody. And the good news is, although they were saying women still don't rate to have pockets, and that was kind of pretty serious snap, and they weren't wrong. Nobody rated to have pockets. It was a Star Trek thing, not a female people don't have pockets. Right? Snacks. And that's what pockets are for. It's for your snacks. You're just saying pockets are for snacks. I'm okay with that. There we go. There we go. Pockets. That was what I wanted. I wanted that here. We're almost at the point where changes could be done on an upper level. Might have been nicer. This is kind of harder to do. Undo. Not to be confused with fondue. And say I could do this all at once, or we could spend all of our time doing this over and over and over. No, I sent the commission back to be worked on for Joe, and he came back with he liked it and a lot of changes he wanted to kind of have done to it, and I haven't gotten back to that project yet. So we'll get there shortly. But not yet. I feel like this should be blue. I feel like I've made it green, but it really should be blue in here. I'm just saying. So we'll do probably at the end of the show, we'll actually probably get back into that one too. And I'm starting to have a lot of work all of a sudden. Not quite as easy as it was. Where are we on here? Not the right one. All right. Yeah, they're red, but that's what those red markings are. They're reflective, and maybe not safety orange just yet, but I mean, maybe that's what they need to be, is safety orange, huh? Oh, man. Epic sloppy mess of doom for like this entire thing. Removable Velcro pockets. Maybe. I mean, I'm just sitting here kind of going, well, the statement was made. It's not wrong. In my defense, though, I'm going to have to say I didn't think about that way. I just thought of it as Star Trek uniforms and gave her lack of pockets like all good Starfleet uniforms have. I didn't realize I was fighting that. I'm not sure. I'm very confused. I mean, was I fighting that? Ornithopter the movie? I liked Ornithopter the movie. It was pretty cool. I can see people thinking that Ornithopter the movie might have been a little too short or too long. Which, I mean, really, those are only people who never actually read the book. The book is remarkably long as well. Yes. And I mean, we've got the same thing going, Ghost Hand. You're right. I mean, but we've got the same kind of thing going on here. The green denotes an officer of the line. And we're going to have purple denote when you're not an officer of the line. So, an officer of the line would be someone who's in command, the command lines of command. So, green denotes that you are the person in charge-ish. Either you're in charge of your division, you're in charge of a thing, or you're in charge of the ship. But either way, it's in charge. Whereas the purple indicates people who are not necessarily in charge. So, Yeah, well, and on carrier decks, it's critical you know who's doing what and what job they're on by sight. Um, Carrier deck is one of the most dangerous positions in the military that isn't combat. So, short of getting shot at, being on a carrier deck is actually like the most dangerous thing you can do. Which, you know, the military, they get shot at a lot. It's a thing. But yeah, that's the same sort of concept we're going for here. You know, be able to easily identify the different uniforms on deck, right? So, you know. Oh yeah. Although, you know, that's the thing is carrier ops now is a vastly different creature. Um, and so, like, it's not only is it markedly more dangerous now, but um, we also, it's markedly faster. That's one of the reasons why it's more dangerous. Ever since the jet age, it's gotten progressively nastier on a carrier deck. So, excuse me. I'm allergic to being on the show again. You think so? I think they're going to get back to the Twisted Mentat. I mean, I'm not 100% sure on that, but I have a feeling they're going to get back to that. All right. Kind of going in here and wondering exactly what I was thinking was a good idea by putting in just big globs of shadow when in the end I'm going to have to come back down here anyway and get rid of all of it. So kind of wondering what I was thinking and why I thought that was a good idea. None of this has been useful. It's like I didn't help myself at all. I really didn't. And so, okay, well, there's that, you know, sort of a thing. Yes. They just let him die. I guess what I should have said was, I think what's going to happen is there will be a director's cut of it. So, I mean, I'm drawing over here, so I claim partial not paying attention because I'm paying attention to my drawing. So sometimes I say things and then I'm like, that's not what I meant to say. Because I think that there's going to be, or rather, I guess I should say, I'm hopeful there will be a director's cut that's like 5 hours or 6 hours long. They knew they couldn't do that, so they just let it go on ahead and did the 3-hour version, and then you can watch the 5-hour version at home if you are so inclined. Yeah, well, you get what you get, huh? That's it. You don't like it, it's too bad, man. I'm taking my toys and going elsewhere. Yeah. That's all right. He's got the right to say that. If he wants to, I guess. I mean, I'm going to cry, but. And to be fair, James Cameron said he wasn't going to do director's cuts either. And I've got the director's cut of both Aliens and The Abyss. So there is that. So I'm still holding out. I'll hold out. And when the director's comes out, you'll be like, oh, okay, well, Guy will be watching it. There we go. Just kind of doing that. Now, let's give some shadow here because it looks cool to have sort of this shadowing. There we go. Finish this, come around this corner here. What I'm doing when I highlight like this is I'm just trying to kind of catch. I'm going to think about the shape of these objects, right? Because, I hate it when people did that. They would say, all you have to do is think about the shape of the object. And I'm like, because you're like, really? So you just have to like imagine the shape. That's the secret. The secret here is to imagine the shape of the object. But it's true, right? That's the layer. You think about this shape, right? As a foot, the light's coming from here, right? So we want to put the light all along this side, but then we want to put the dark along this side. But what's important here is it's hard to not look at this foot and think, it's hard to look at this foot and think it's rounded, but it's also turned because it is turned. Like her foot is somewhat aimed at us. So we're going to want to go and kind of show that. So I'm going to put like up here like this, right? That indicates that this part's getting light more than this part. I'm actually going to kind of exaggerate that a little, doing sort of that kind of thing. And that makes it look like the top part of this foot is getting lit up. But the other side isn't. And I've got to also remember the light is behind her, right? So it's not going to catch this toe up here. Like so, right? Because the light can't reach the toe piece, the front of the boot. that makes it look a whole lot better. So okay, that's that piece. I'm actually kind of wondering, why did I bother? I end up having to delete a whole bunch of shadow and light from everything else. So kind of the opinion that maybe what I need to do is just go like this and then go onto the overlay layer and delete, and go onto the multiply layer and delete. Because really, I'm not helping myself any. I have to go through and redraw it anyway, right? So I'm like, well, okay, why did you do this to yourself? All you did is just make it difficult. So let's go ahead and let's go into the multiply layer. I'm going to talk a little bit about where the light is. Right, so the light's coming from this side. This part of her face is going to be, well, and see, like, I didn't even finish figuring out where the light is up here. I mean, like, this is all screwed up still. I don't even know what I'm doing up here. Anybody knows what I'm doing up here? Does anybody know what I'm doing? Nobody knows what I'm doing. I don't even know what I'm doing. Okay. And this is why we just deleted everything. Okay. The back of her nose, all along the top here, in this crevice across here, it's going to come down because her hair comes down, right? So the shadow is going to come down like so. And also trace across the hair like so, because it's going to start giving a shadow of forward. Nothing. So the other thing is she has a button nose, so it tilts upward like this, right? And none of this lighting is illustrating that. So we're going to go on ahead and go underneath like so. And then we're going to kind of do this number because she has this button nose, right? Then we're going to take the light on the other side and do the same thing. We're going to come back under like this. I'm going to get rid of all of that because that's not helping us any at all. I'm going to come underneath here like so, because that also not helping us. Go to white, get our pin, and we're just going to hit the top part and the sides. So like this, right? It's a button nose. There we go. And that way the light's on top, which gives her that effect that the nose goes boop and sticks up a little. It makes that noise too. It has to say boop. That's important. If you're going to draw, do it right. Have to make the noises. It's required by law. Okay. I'm just going to add in some shadow on her lips. You get just a little bit of operating shadow there, like so. All right. And that's much better. It illustrates a little bit more of what's going on with her nose and stuff like that. It looks better. And then she also ends up with baggy eyes, and not in the bad way. Just there's Asians end up with little pouches that go underneath their eyes generally. So I'm going to go on ahead and illustrate that with a little bit of extra light here. Kind of going around like so. That illustrates that there's sort of a bag under there. And kind of go this way underneath it like so. And give highlight past it. I think it's funny because, so many women, I remember in the 70s, the women's commercials for bags under the eyes and stuff like that. And it turns out some people have them by complete nature. And it's just the nature of things. And it doesn't indicate age at all, except when the culture decides that that's the case. I find that intriguing in a lot of ways. Like a culture has decided somewhere along the line that bags under the eyes are a sign of age. Little pouches under the eyes. Which, of course, to me, almost because she's got so many other features that are young looking, starts to become one of those things where I don't necessarily perceive it as being that way, I don't see it as being aged in any way. Okay. We'll move over to here. And we'll go ahead and start working on the shadows here. We'll put the shadows in the same place. In this instance, though, I feel like her hair is giving a little bit of shadow across her body, like so. Definitely in there. But this one, definitely those pouches really will become pronounced because when she's smiling, it pushes up these muscles here, which immediately squish the muscles that are right underneath your eyes. And so those little pouches become much more pronounced. And especially, if you've got the predisposition for those pouches anyway, then they're going to be very pronounced. We're going to end up with them right under here, like so. Like so. I mean, honestly, it's all about knowing anatomy and knowing how the anatomy works and stuff like that. So it's one of those things. It's why us artists go through almost as many anatomy classes as doctors do. Right. Now, let's talk about where the light is on this. Like, if the light's from the same spot, which is coming from here, which is entirely plausible, then we know it's going to hit like right here, and all of this is going to be in shadow down here, right? So, knowing that, we're going to kind of want to talk about the things that are in shadow here, which may be all of this part of her face, right? Like every part from here down ends up in shadow. Right. And she only gets sort of relief from this side when we get onto this side of her face. And that light's definitely going to pass across her chin, like so. I'm going to bring that back up. We're also probably going to get shadow right here, but not a lot, because she's raising her eyebrows up, and that flattens this area. It's not so dramatic at that point in time. When you raise your eyebrows up, all of that sort of flattens out. Right. So now we're just going to go to the flip side on this. We're going to really highlight this section right here, because that's where this light's coming from. It's right here. Kind of come along here. We're going to do this. And of course, the top of our nose will get a highlight too. Well, maybe we get a little bit there. So we're just talking about where does the light hit, right? We'll come back around and we'll just clean it up. Well, and that didn't work like I wanted it to. So we'll do that and that and that. Now, it's hard for me to see very well here. I'm right now still using Cricut. Now, do you also want to talk to me about my extended car warranty while we're at it? Anyway. Which I think Cricut is AT&T, and I don't want to talk about it. Because AT&T was stupidly annoying to me when I was younger, and they charged me a whole lot of money when I was working on my mom's funeral, and I really didn't need to have all of that money screwed up, and they screwed me up anyway, and I was very bitter. That's extraordinarily tempting. Thank you for that heads up. So that's not a bad thought process. Go in here. I'm trying to get all the Trekkies to join T-Mobile. Interesting. All right, coming through here. I'm going to make sure that this light hits in a corner, in an angle. You see how it's coming this way? So we're just going to bring up this side. There we go. And she doesn't look so bad. Now, I spend extra time on the face because we look at the faces, we look straight at them and go, oh, that's a face. So you want to spend extra time on that. We won't spend as much of that time on the rest of her. So we'll go through, we'll add sort of not there because all of this is in the shadow. So right here is where the shadow stops. Right, and we'll come along the side like so, and then like so. And then we'll catch the side of the breast right through there. It's important. It's important to describe that parts of her body are sticking out further than her arm. Obviously, it's true of almost all of us, not necessarily unique to women, but certainly women stand out further in that point than men. All right. We're going to have to go to break here in a second, but I want to kind of finish where we are here. like so, but also be cognizant and aware that her arm is about to cross over this line, right? So we're going to have this go like so and come back, right? So it's going to be like that. There we go. Yeah, and we actually transferred our phones, I mean, because of normal operation during that time as well, which allowed me, Lunch Ladyland, which allowed me to watch For All Mankind, which was great. So have a good lunch. And Brent and Ghost Hand, we all got to stand up and stretch. Time for us to stretch. Oh yeah, that's the spot right there. Oh God, bend each side a little bit. So, here we go. Make sure we pop things, stretch, walk around a little, look outside. What a wonderful day. Open the door a little. Temperature out here is kind of nice. It'd definitely attract a cat, pretty sure. Opening the doors, surefire way for him to come over and go and see what's going on out there. But then I also like to walk through here a little and walk back and forth. And oh man, roll your neck. And here we go. All right. Back to work for us. All right. By the way, generally speaking, I am of the opinion that commissions take priority, but we've got a couple of things where the commissions are coming in and going out, and I have a hard time staying on target if I have too many of them, too many things which disrupt my path flow. So we need to finish a couple of these pieces real quick, these internal ones that belong to Bellatrix, because they need to be finished so that they can be out the door so I can say I'm done and not have to worry about it again. That's what we're doing. She ends up with her hands being like this, not like that. And we'll do something like so. There we go. Now, even put sort of highlighting here, kind of indicate that her body blocks a lot of it this way. So we're going to do that like so. And then that, you can see kind of how the light kind of crosses across her like so. And we'll get rid of that. Okay. And that gives us the highlights kind of going down here. Go back into the highlighter. And this kind of takes precedent up front here, like so. Coming around the other side. Definitely is involved in the light. Like so. We'll do this just to make sure it's trimmed so you can kind of see that. And we'll do this in the back. But we're going to be lighter on this one because the lighting isn't quite as stellar. Actually, we're going to kind of do this so that it fits better. And come along here like so. And then again, I have once again described the toe as being in the light, and it's not. It's not in the light. So stop doing that, guy. Stop doing that. You're not helping yourself. There we go. Like so. Like so. There. Then we'll talk the other side. Do feel like her trap might still be forward like so. And along the top of her deltoid. Because that does stick out. She's got her jork collarbone is sticking out. I don't know why I lost collarbone. Clearly, that's not a word I'm supposed to say. Who knew? Right. We're going to go on ahead and head on the other side. If this is where this is, then we know we're going to be here. Right. We're going to just be all across here, right up to this point. We're going to come back around. Right. We're going to be able to define most of this area as being in the shadows, right up to about there. And I'll just tap in there with the fill tool, and that makes it a whole lot easier. That way I don't have to go through this entire mess. Right. The other side of her arm is going to be in shadow, right through here. And one of the things that makes realism is when you have 2 points that come together like this, like we do with her hip, which is rounded here like so, and her arm, which is going to be rounded. When you have them shaped like this, it's always a shadow on both sides. And the reason is because light is going to strike this valley and then bounce out. So it's going to keep bouncing out, right? Every time it hits that valley, it's going to bounce out. So as you get closer and closer and closer, it's going to get darker and darker and darker because there's less light that's not bouncing out of there. So that's one of the things that they do, a trick that they'll do. It's called ambient occlusion, and it's occluding like as in to occlude the sun. So it's called ambient occlusion. You're taking the ambient light, which is the light that's in the room by nature, as opposed to a direct light. You're taking the ambient light and you're occluding it. It's going away. It's shadowing out. So ambient occlusion is where you have two objects that meet each other, and this area gets progressively darker until it's at zero light. Since we are what we call cell shading, we only have two different gradients of light to work with. So we work where we can, and in this instance, we just ambiently occlude there, like so. And we get the same thing here, right? We're going to have her actual arm is actually touching her hip here. So we get that ambient occlusion as it goes in. And the same thing down here and here. There we go. Like so. Like soap. What? Soap. Who ordered soap? And do the same thing right here, coming down into this crevasse right through here. And just pull that ambient occlusion out. Since this is highlighted, I'm going to make sure it's cleared up on the front side of that because it is bright to one side. So there is that. We're going to go in here. We're going to real quickly just touch up some of the stuff here, which is clearly needing some help. All these little white dots that you're seeing here are just artifacts of the fill process. I'm just going to go through here and I'm just touching up the artifacts. It also helps with this ambient occlusion, right? Because we want that to be as sharp of a dark line as possible. And come through here where it's really kind of unclear where all that is. Right? And right through here. It's really hard to hit that without messing up the color of the fingers. But we can go back in and just touch that back up. Oh man, we're going to war over this area, I can tell. There we go. Snag that. Just kind of go in there. And the same thing over here. And just make sure all this is not white. All these little white dots that appear. There we go. Just like that. All right. Well, no. Okay, we're in there. That's fine. I'm going to go back up here and I'm going to grab this gray right there. And I'm just going to fill. These are RC thrusters, and RC standing for reaction control. So if she gets kicked out into space for whatever reason, she has some maneuverability by the little thrusters on her suit, but the thrusters are minimal. But they work. I mean, in case of an emergency. Her suit's going to be weird. Why is this a different color? Or did I grab the wrong shade? What am I grabbing? What am I doing here? I guess I'm grabbing the wrong shade. That's part of it. Oh, man. I'm like, that doesn't look right. I must have grabbed one of the highlight reels. That's all right. We'll make it work. There. Now, just cleaning it up. I probably should have done that to this guy over here, but I was up and close. So go in here on this. We're just going to come through. Not on that layer, please. This layer. We're just going to put in the shadowing on the hand here. Like so. And here's another one of those areas where it's difficult to kind of think out how the dynamics of this area work. And the crotch area has always been complicated. Anyway, it's a lot of complicated geometry, things moving around. And frankly, you spend a lot of time staring at it whenever you're a kid and you don't think about the dynamics of it. And then later when you're older and you're like, oh crap, I got to draw that area. Like, I wish I'd paid more attention to its dynamics and less attention to what it meant. So, looking at the dynamics here, we're just kind of making this a round area. That entire area is rounded around, so we're going to let it round. I'm going to go down through here. Well, we've had alien sex, and now we're talking about crotches. So, this has been like the sexiest show I've ever had. So there's that. This thruster pack on her ankles, and it extends out just a little bit from her ankles so that she's got room for the fuel and the rockets and things like that you'll need to give her some capability to move around. There we go. Going along here too. There we go. I'm realizing on this side, we aren't defining that area. Speaking of breasts and the chest. But I mean, realistically, if you're dealing with an artist and you can't deal with that, you've got issues. In the end, we are depicting human beings. We kind of need to do this right. There we go. All right. Save real quick. And shake everything out. One of the other things I should do is in this multiply layer, go in here and see if I can't. Nope, it just fills the whole thing. We need to go onto this layer, grab this, and just seal this guy up a little. She's just leaning up against a wall here. You're still going to fill the whole stupid thing. Yeah, well, that makes sense. There's no line in here to stop me from doing so. That's, my fault. You'd think I'd be aware of that. And again, we're going to want to do the ambient occlusion here, right? Let's do that. That way she looks like she's leaning up against something, kind of brushed up against it there. That works. Okay. And hit save real quick. Take a deep breath. And I think I'm going to work on this for just a few more minutes, and then we're going to switch over to commission land because we've gotten approval from Joe on his piece. I don't know what he's using it for, but it's interesting. So bippity boppity bip. Bippity boppity boo. Bippity boppity boo. Okay. There is no way to open that work piece from the history files because we've been working on all kinds of other stuff. All right. He had approved Lao Kun, but he wants me to make the horse less of a My Little Pony. I'm okay with that. Let's see if they do pottery. There I am. Because we kind of want to look at what the Trojan horse looked like in Greek pottery. Right? And the Trojan horse looks kind of like so. And I actually think ancient Greek, we should also do krakens. Make sure that we know what a kraken looks like in pottery. Wow, that is an impressive piece of artwork. Talk about submechaphobia. Wow. I'll save that image too because it's fun. However, we're looking for the Kraken. We're looking for the Kraken to find out what we're doing here as far as Kraken work goes. Because they put the Krakens on vases back then. There we go. Okay. And now, just because we were just talking about, hey, I didn't mean to do that. Now, because we were talking about it, I will bring up that Kraken piece because I was like, wow. I was going to sleep through it. Okay, look at this. Look at this. Talk about submechaphobia. Submechaphobia. I mean, like, right? Like you see that coming out of the deep, and it's like its eyes are all glowy, and it's like, and you're like, whoa, Kraken suck. So, okay, let's talk a little bit about some of the critters that we're going to need in here. Okay, so we need a Kraken. Right? So we're just going to... Looks to me like the Kraken can be kind of put in, like, I'm gonna do this. And the reason we're doing this is so that I can look at my Kraken at the same time, and you can look at the Kraken at the same time. Okay. Now, we kind of put it, I'm happy with him, completely happy with him. So I don't have any problems with him anymore. So, but the Kraken doesn't look Kraken-y. We're not Kraken enough. Okay, come on, that was good. We'll also open up the Great Trojan Horse because we need to make sure he's open too. We'll add him over here whenever we get to this stage. But first, we'll start with the Kraken. Reese the Kraken. So we're gonna get Kraken. If I hit erase, it's gonna erase underneath it too, which is kind of aggravating. I'm okay with the wall. I don't know if I'm really that okay with. I love the Kraken limbs around him, so we're gonna go on ahead and keep those. We're just gonna go in here and work this a little bit. So I'm gonna put a new layer in, new raster layer, and then I put that underneath here. And I make this raster layer all white. And the reason is because when you use the eraser here, we're cutting away from the picture. So it cuts and then gives me my checkerboard, which is really hard for me to see. So if I put white under there, I won't see that and it won't be a problem. and then I can go back in and do work on this. So we're going to go in here, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to clean up some of this because he's liked this. I like it too. It doesn't look bad. So we're just going to kind of go in here, and I'm actually not going to use that. I'm going to use the croak wheel because it allows me to give some variable here. And we'll go around like so. The Kraken has him by the neck, naturally. So, and I feel like it should be squishy, right? So we're going to come out like this. And just kind of come around, so like sort of like so. There we go. So he's squeezing in on the Kraken's doodly wops here, pseudopods, tentacles. He's trying to squeeze the Kraken's tentacles. So I want to make that feel like that. It's got mass that he's crushing in on because he's, he may not have inhuman strength, but he does have human strength. So we want to make sure that he definitely has that feel crushing in on that. Right. And we'll actually pull sort of underneath here a little bit more. More like so. There we go. Just like that. Poor dude getting krakened. Nope. There we go. All right. I feel kind of like, okay, so this is the other part of the Kraken's tentacle. Right here. And on the same token, his cloak should do this, right? Kind of want to indicate that his cloak's getting crushed into the Kraken. Kind of having fun with this Kraken thing. Okay, Joe, if you're watching this, you've got input. You are free and welcome to say anything you want at any time. Well, okay. I feel like the Kraken has an extra lobe on his octopusian head. It just sounds bad. I don't know. So I'm going to bring his head around like so. And give him sort of a bumpy head. For some reason, I have Paula Abdul's Cold-Hearted Snake going through my head. I don't know whether I think that the Kraken's a cold-hearted snake. I mean, it is a Kraken, but I kind of feel like it's a cold-hearted octopus. I'm just saying, you know? I feel like it's not a cold-hearted snake so much as a cold-hearted octopus. It's kind of fun, actually. I'm having a lot of fun with this particular piece. I've never worked in ancient Greek, and it's a wonderful sort of format to work in. Okay. Okay, we're just going through here. We're just cleaning it up. It's pottery. So we want the lines to be bold and assured, but we also want to give them some life, right? So we're going to give them some life here. And by life, see, I wonder if the ancient Greeks are all sitting up there going, man, he gets an undo button? That sucks. We didn't get an undo button. All right. I'm pressing too hard, so my hand's getting a little numb. So I'm going to take this opportunity to take a break and just kind of relax for a second, pop my thumb, which I need to do regularly now. Thank you, arthritis. And then I'll shake it all out. Let the blood go back to my fingers, because there needs to be blood in my fingers. And we'll push for the last few minutes of this. All right. Okay, Joe, if you're watching this later, then one of the other things that I'm wondering about, and I want to make sure you're okay with, is I'm adding more expression in the lines than the Greeks added in their artwork. It looks better and it looks cleaner to me. However, if you find that the expression is too much, like the line width is too varied, and it doesn't look right to you, then give me a holler and we can go on ahead and redo it with less line expression. But I like the line expression being, a little bit live so that it doesn't look so flat. But I'm also a cartoonist by nature, so by default, I'm gonna kind of do that. A lot more expression in the line, a little bit more width here, and a little bit more strength there. But it might also be a little flat. So, and actually, now that I'm looking at it, I'm wondering whether I shouldn't. Let's take a look at some of the other stuff that's out here. I feel like, well, no, even looking at the line work in here, it's rougher. And we have to remember one major thing about this sketch. When it's done, I'm going to have it like so. Right? So we're going to be starting from this point and moving out. It's not going to all be inverted, but inverted is where it's going to be primarily. So that's going to look good. So I'm actually not unhappy with this. Okay, we're good. Okay. So looking at the line width actually on here, and let's bring up that other piece that we were working from before, the Persephone one, because I really like that piece. It's got some exquisite work. I'm going to put it over here as part of my reference pieces. I'm going to take a really good look at that. Those lines are solid and clean and very, very solid. I don't know. Maybe I do feel kind of like we need to make sure the lines are exacting and not deviating much. They deviate a lot on the Trojan horse, but the piece that looks cooler is this one. There's not a lot of line deviation there. So maybe I'll go with that one instead. So let's go back to our Laocoon. Okay. There's a lot of motorcycles just tootled by. Rum, 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 rum. Okay, we're going to go on ahead and we're going to add another layer. And here's what we're going to do. Take you, I'm going to duplicate this layer. I'm going to put you there and drop you down just a bit. This helps me see when I have done contrasting lines. Okay, so we're going to take our lines here and we're going to make them about 5 thick. And this will give me the ability to make it solider. But I'm going to go on ahead and pretend that I have to ink this in a solid line. Like so. And when we don't have there, that's what we'll do. And same thing here. We'll go on ahead and pull that back. And we'll use the technical pin for these lines right here. And I'll make them swoop just a little bit so that they all speak to each other. We're just going to be extra careful. Right? That looks more like this stuff. Now, there is heavier line weight when we get to shadows. They're putting in a slightly heavier line weight at shadows. So there is some serious, as like a very right. We'll bring this back. Then we'll put in that heavier line weight here, because this is where the Kraken is pushing. All right, we'll do this, and we'll do this, and this, and this. There we go. That looks a whole lot cleaner. You know what I mean? Like more like what's going on over here as far as line weight goes, so we can keep that. I actually like the dots. know if it's getting sucked in. There we go. We're just giving it the same sort of resiliency. Just looking at the skirt work here. Isn't that just exquisite? And just wonderful? Like the drapery is perfect. Which not happening. I'm just saying, not happening. My drapery is not as good. Damn it. I want my drapery to be better. Okay, back to this guy. I'm going to use 5 for all the interior pieces. We're going to use 8 for outside pieces. So like this Kraken line right here. That's not what I want on. We'll go in here like so. Bring this Kraken out and back and up. We're actually kind of going to do sort of this thing to this. Indicate this Kraken line here. Right? Because he is sort of bending around like so. This guy is also bending like so. Gives some feel that, you know, that the fabric is folding over and around. There we go. Give him that brooch. Having this coming through here like so. I'm kind of pulling, right? I mean, like the fabric's pulling here. Put in that collarbone right there. And let's put in this hair. turns out that our dear Lao Kun doesn't have a mustache. He just has a beard. Weirdly, or beardly. Which certainly was an operating style for a while there. And I mean, it's a free world. It could be a style again, for all we know. Oh, what that isn't? That isn't actually his hair. That's a headband. All right. Weird old Lao Kun dude. I just have a problem with Lao Kun because it sounds like Japanese, like his name is Lao, and he's just a contemporary. Okay, motorcycle's going back the other direction now. There's 3 of them now. 2 went that way. 3 go that way. Weird, but true. All right, kind of coming up here, going like this. I'm gonna do this, right, like so. And do this. We get the, oh no, I'm so despondent look on his face, as only happens in Greek artwork. He's so despondent. Right. Except he's like, I'm being killed. You know, I'm so Greek. It's tragic. All right. Feel like we should probably save this as, and let's do this as a clip so that there isn't, because I really don't want to. All right. Oh, we gotta stand up. I have to stand up. Oh my God. Oh my God. All right. So, all right. We did our bit for King and Country. Here, we'll go on ahead and fix this piece. And go back here. All right. So, what we did today was we worked on our Lao Kun sketch, and we worked on Oh man, my legs are like asleep. Ooh. Kind of like spent too much time. Like, meh. Anyway, sitting. Probably shouldn't have done that. So we did the Lao Kun sketch. All's good. And we did bits and pieces of all kinds of other things and worked on all kinds of stuff. So we're good now. No, we're not. We'll probably be working on all of this tomorrow. I don't know whether we're going to have Pepper with us tomorrow. We'll see. Sometimes he's with us, sometimes he's not. So I have to figure that out. I think so. Okay. I hope that you guys all have a wonderful day. Thank you again for joining me, Brent and Ghost Hand, and I will see you all tomorrow. And remember to keep your eyes on the stars. Bye-bye. Computer, good night.